Well, happy Thursday, friends. As this month of March begins, I'm thinking about last year's St. Patrick's Day. Neighbors gathered at my home before the reality of a worldwide pandemic began dictating the parameters of our lives. Since that day, my neighbors and I haven't gathered as we did. Now, over 500,000 Americans are gone, and millions more have been affected by COVID-19. Such devastation is usually associated with terrible wars. We have endured a year that has changed our lives in countless ways, and many of these changes will be long lasting. It's not over yet. At that gathering last year, we joked about a toilet paper shortage. The centerpiece on my dining table was rolls of toilet paper adorned with shamrocks. Humor was, and still is, one of those ways that I cope. It's one of the ways that helps me get through this seemingly unending COVID season. We long for normalcy again, while under our collective breaths, we curse the oppressive but necessary masks, right? It's been a year like no other, no? And hear my deep sigh. For we know the season of pandemic is not yet behind us. We have no choice but to give up and yield to despair, or to persevere in hope, humor, and in faith that this too shall pass. Perseverance might be easy in the short term, but not so easy when the light of the end of the tunnel is a mere speck or isn't seen at all. How do we persevere? As for me, I look for inspiration from the far more difficult life experiences of others in comparison to my own. We find these perseverance stories in the Bible. We find them in history, and we might even find them within our own circle of friends and families. I have three I want to share with you. Three that stand out for me and inspire me to persevere. I hope they'll encourage you too. First, when God's chosen people were conquered and expelled from their homeland and found themselves living as exiles and strangers under foreign rule in the midst of vastly different social norms, unfamiliar cultures, and unknown languages, and without knowing when or if they would ever return to the land they loved, well, they found ways to persevere through those times without losing faith. They did so by clinging to familiar customs and worship rituals that reminded them of God's faithfulness to their forebears. They listened with hope to the prophets who admonished them to not adopt false teachings and customs surrounding them, while encouraging them to persevere and reminding them of God's promise to never leave nor forsake them. That exile was followed by a return to their homeland, but only to be followed by ultimate dispersion throughout the world, the dispersion that continues to this day. For only a small percentage of their descendants now reside in Israel, and not without enduring the fear of losing their homeland again. God's chosen people also endured what is called the Holocaust. Many died, and some survived the horrors of the Nazi regime that was bent on utter annihilation of a people. 6 million of them were exterminated, and many more millions of lives were forever changed and marred by unspeakable persecution and devastation. Yet, the remnant left persevered by clinging to God's promise to never leave nor to forsake them, remembering God's faithfulness to their forebears and knowing that God would see them through, though they could not see how. Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel said, "Even in darkness, it is possible to create light. It's up to us to find ways to create that light that gives us hope and enables us to persevere." Closer to my own life, I know a young woman who failed the FCAT, threatening to rob her of her high school diploma, After 7 tries, despite intense studying, she failed. And then a guidance counselor suggested she try something different. To first pray, then study, then pray again. She was tempted to give up, but instead chose to persevere and pray. She passed on the 8th try. Today, she's working on her PhD. It was and is prayer that enables her to persevere. Think of inspirational stories like these that you know. It might even be your own. We will persevere together, for God is with us and will never leave us nor forsake us. Have a blessed rest of your day, my memorial friends.